Well, hello everybody. I have decided to go live again for a number of reasons. Number one, it's easier than recording a video, uploading it, downloading it, doing all these things with it. This is just direct. And I also love when people pop on with me. So, two of my last two sessions rescheduled, even though I've got a mile long list of things to do before I leave on vacation. I had it on my heart to connect because I feel like we've moved through some stormy times, and I wanted just to be here to connect with anyone who just wanted to connect. I've got my smudge burning in the background and it's blowing in my face. Wanted to connect, but really just as a place, again, this space holding place, the Soul Nurture channel, to be a sort of sacred gathering place. I hope that my videos do meet you where you are, do offer something that supports you, lifts you up, inspires you, reminds you you're not alone, and encourages you to keep going. So it's kind of, my channel is kind of still in development. My original intention was to come here and help nurture the potential in all of us, our soul potential, reclaim our soul potential. I also have a mission of supporting caregivers, healers, and practitioners, and supporting themselves as they support others. And you've got 22 years, if not more, experience of being on this alternative path of healing and holding space for our unfolding, for our reclaiming of soul potential. Anyway, what did I want to talk about today? Well, what was on my heart was this. We've just moved through some turbulent energy and times through eclipse season. And I know from talking to friends and clients and being with my own journey that a lot got stirred up. A lot, and that's the purpose. That is a really powerful place to be in. The eye of the storm is where transformation is. If you remember to hold that space and trust that everything that's going on is supporting us in healing and transforming and revealing what needs to be healed and reclaiming our authentic selves, a world, our inner world and external world that is more in integrity with our potential as individuals and collectively. So my last video, I talked about there was a literal storm that blew through where I was staying, and also in the neighborhood that I live in, but we weren't home at the time, took out the power, and we were literally without power in the darkness. Hello, Brittany. And I thought that was so symbolic of what we're moving through, these sort of revealing more of the shadow of ourselves and our collective, and also just getting a sense of what we need to work on. And I know we're tired of our inner work. I know that there's so much going on and it feels like more and more and more. Today feels like a very calming day, right? And astrologically, there are some reasons why. I'm not going to go into astrology here though. But I just felt this calming, and I had this image of after the storm, or after, for any of you who've lived through an earthquake, after an earthquake, it's just this, there's a lot of mess to clean up, right? And it can feel overwhelming. But here's the thing. While we're going through hard times, what gets stirred up is not only the challenges and the problems, but we stir up our subconscious material. So we become privy, we become more aware and conscious of our self-talk, how we're being with ourselves, the inner voice. Is it nice? Is it not? Our negative story, our negative beliefs, all that comes forward. It's kind of like this. I often use this metaphor. I always get confused, metaphor, analogy. Maybe someone could help me with that. I think metaphor is more of a symbolic story and analogy is more of a literal, it's like this. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're here with me, Brittany. Yeah, thank you. So where was I? Okay, that's the only thing. I love chatting, but then I get a little lost. Okay, so okay, let me find that place again. Huh. I forgot what I was saying. Darn it. Okay. Well, it's like this in terms of stirring the pot. I was saying about our subconscious mind. Lost it. But one way to think about it is walking into a dark room or a dark building or a dark, your home, and turning on all the lights and seeing all the mess all at once. Like, say you left your house in a mess and you had to run out somewhere, or maybe there was an earthquake and you evacuated and you came back in and there's stuff everywhere, and it's turning on the light and really looking at it. So what we see on the external, what's happening, generates an inner reaction or response. But what gets stirred up is our subconscious beliefs about ourselves. And this is a great time to become aware of that. It is important what's happening on the external, but what's more important is what we are telling ourselves about ourselves during what's happening. And this is the place that I work with my clients a lot. And years ago, I'm not sure if I heard this live because I used to attend Agape years ago, like, started 25 years ago, went for a number of years before I moved to Washington. And I was privy, so blessed with so many dynamic teachers, spiritual teachers. And one of my favorites was Ian Van Zant, who would often come and deliver the sermon or offer workshops. And I remember her saying something like this that really stayed with me. And that is, we should not be allowed inside our own minds without adult supervision. And I thought, wow, genius. She is a genius. Go check out her channel and her work. If you don't know her, she's amazing. And over the years, though, I added this. I love that. I can't perfect Yanla's work, but to add my take on what I needed anyway, and what I find my clients needing, it's not only adult supervision, but what we need in our own minds is a compassionate, loving, accepting, guiding, protective voice. And if you didn't grow up with that, the voices you hear in your mind, not like, voices of a bad, like schizophrenic, voices of guidance, voices of what you grew up with. That's typically what we're programmed with when we're younger, becomes our recordings in our mind. And when we're overwhelmed or stressed and a lot's going on, that's what gets put on repeat. But instead of being taken down by that, bring your sacred awareness to notice, wow, that is what I've been saying to myself. And maybe whose voice is that really, or where did I get that message? And the power is in the consciousness of the present moment to say, I choose not to believe that about myself anymore. Or I want to invite in a more loving, kind, accepting, encouraging voice or person. Sometimes we can imagine someone that we actually know. I have a lot of clients always, and I'm so honored by this. They'll say, and then this happened, but then I heard you in my voice saying, did you, or what about? And I love that. And it's what an honor, but really I'm just a placeholder for their own compassion and their own acceptance and love and nurturing. I call myself the soul nurturer. It's not like I'm going to nurture everybody to their potential. I'm saying we need to do that for ourselves. We have to learn to be our own soul nurturers. And yes, I have some tools and I have some joy about nurturing potential in others, but the goal is to do that for ourselves. So I love this idea, like, how do we begin to bring into our own minds this loving voice? And so again, when an emotional storm blows through, or we're in the middle of a earthquake shaking up our inner worlds, we become aware of not only what's not working in our external worlds and our relationships, and it's like it's certainly a wake up, right? Anything intense in our worlds wakes us up out of our unconscious slumber or our denial, or what we're, where we've had blinders on. Everything gets just shaken awake, shaken awake. And that's when we really can then hear the self-talk, the negative things we think about ourselves and others, which is also still about us. Again, back to that, and maybe this is where I was when I couldn't remember metaphor or analogy. Yeah, walking into the house and turning on the lights and going, oh my goodness, overwhelming, right? Feel really overwhelming, and especially overwhelming if the first thing you hear is you being hard on yourself, you being critical of yourself, you putting yourself down, doubting yourself. So this is what was on my heart today, and I have something I'm going to read, but I think I'll read it at the end because I think it's more important there. But whoops, and I've lost my feed. Oh, here I am. Sorry. Okay. I often do this in my videos because I'm usually rushing around from one thing to the other. And although I ground before I come on here, knowing that I'm in a live video or even creating a video, knowing I'm talking to people out there that I don't get to be in the same room with, can bring me off center. So I often like to demonstrate this is exactly what we need to do when we're overwhelmed and lots going on. I call it catch ourselves. Just take a pause, breathe in. And this is what I did last video, and I'm doing it now. Pause, breathe in. Hand over heart is also very centering, very grounding. I was sharing with a client earlier today that we'll see if any of you out there, I'm going to do this and then hopefully remember to come back to it. What does this mean in sign language? And Danny Mills, this, I know you know, and maybe some of you know, if you've ever seen a sign language person, especially in church, make this gesture. I'll come back to that in just a couple minutes because I don't want to forget it. It's really important. But just that gesture, what does that feel like? It's like centering, grounding, rooting in ourselves, calming, being in this present moment. I mean, there's so much symbology for me with that, because anxiety and overwhelm is when sort of the past blows through the present moment, and we futurize with fear or projecting what we've experienced onto the future. And really, we need to come right here, right, to this present moment, to catch ourselves and to be held by something greater than ourselves. So when you're watching this video, if you know what this is, go ahead and comment now, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it means. This is the sign for God, for the divine. So just think about that now. Take that in. Catching ourselves, yes, we need to update our human minds to be more loving, more supporting, more kind, more supportive. We need to eradicate the voices, the messages we got about ourselves when we were children that weren't supportive or were critical. And remember, I never blame parents or caregivers. They were all doing the best they could with their stuff. And it may not have been even a direct message. It may have been, remember when we're kids, we translate everything. We're egocentric. So everything happening in the world is about us. So if our external world doesn't feel safe, or something feels harsh or challenging, we make that about us. Like something's wrong with me, or we hear somebody criticizing someone else and we feel that in ourselves. I often say this to parents as a side note, but still connected. Parents, especially when there's a divorce and a difficult divorce, do not talk about the other parent in the presence of your children in disparaging ways, in critical ways, putting them down, because you know how your child will hear that? That is half of who they are. So they'll hear it as, that's them. So I think that's really important. this video is really about bringing that sacred awareness to our inner dialogue. And is it loving? Is it kind? Is it not? And during hard times, we need to be extra gentle with ourselves, extra loving, extra compassionate. And, trust me, I know it's not easy. Trust me when I say I have to reset myself often, come back to center, come back to my faith, come back to trusting that there is a loving God that's holding me despite the challenges in the world, that there is a loving presence, a loving God, a loving universe, however you connect, that is managing the details of this world that I can pray about, I can take action towards, but I don't need to crumble in fear with. Okay. So how are you doing in this moment? I guess too, I always want to know, how have you been navigating your life with everything going on? Again, today feels like I keep having this image of, if you've ever gone river rafting, we've just gone through some really rough rapids, where we're just head down, get through, and there's a calming right now in this moment. I feel, do you feel that too? A calming where we can now look around and see what needs our attention in our lives, but also mostly in our inner world. What needs your attention? How have you been with yourself? Have you caught yourself in a loving way? Let yourself reset, center, connect to the divine within you, within the world, within others? Or are you bumping in to other people, getting triggered still? And again, that's also good. It just reveals more of our wounding. It reveals more of our unhealed places. And so how can you be more loving and connected to yourself? So, what else was on my heart? I think that was it. And here's why I was really hard on myself the other day. And that's, again, I have Saturn in my first house. This happens a lot. And I have to talk myself out of an old pattern, an old belief with love and compassion. And it's not always the first place I go. I more often swim in self-love and acceptance. But I'll tell you the truth. As I was setting this up today, I went to go select a picture that would be on the thumbnail. And I did select a picture that I thought to myself, so funny I'm putting this picture up, because when I first saw that picture that my husband took of me maybe 2 years ago or less, I was very judgmental. I was very much like, hey, Ariel, welcome. I was very much like, wow, I look fat in that shirt. And oh, wow, that's not very flattering, right? We do this to ourselves. I always say this to my clients. Trust that 10 years or even 5 years from now, in my case, 2 years from now, you'll look back at your old pictures and go, hey, I looked pretty good. But today, when we look at a picture, our critical thoughts come forward. We're so critical and hard on ourselves. Again, because we're filtering through all the critical thoughts or experiences we had, or where we didn't get validated, loved, seen with complete acceptance and unconditional love. So we're always kind of checking to see if we're going to get that love. Is this picture, going to turn someone off? Is this picture going to reveal something about me? And this is why I often talk about shadow work. This is why we wear the masks that we do. And of course, when I'm on here, I'm wearing a mask as we have many different personas. This is my semi-professional persona, me holding space for others, but also letting some vulnerability come out. And definitely in session, 100% my persona of the therapist, of the soul guide. And in different environments, we shift these masks. And I mean, we can't walk around 100% all the time, like being authentically like, I'm really pissed off right now. I'm really angry at you. And this is what's happening. Even though that might be an authentic experience on the inner, we don't need to lead with that either. I mean, of course, be real, be vulnerable. That's where our healing happens. But this idea of, what space are we holding for ourselves and being so gentle? And again, back to that picture. So I want to invite you to go back and look at a picture of yourself, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, and tune in to remembering the first time you looked at that picture and be honest. Were you kind? Were you loving? Were you hard on yourself? And how do you meet yourself today? And that really is it. We're just constantly evolving, healing, expanding, and hopefully expanding more self love, more self acceptance, so we can meet ourselves right where we are and love ourselves forward each and every day, the way we would a good friend or a child, right? So I think I'll do a quick meditation and then I'm going to close. Actually, I'm going to read the thing I was going to read, and then I'll do a little meditation, and then we'll wrap up here. And I thank you for being with me, those who've popped in, and those of you who are watching later. Please let me know if anything resonates with you. I'd love to know, have you shifted your inner voice to be more loving, more kind? Are you still struggling with that? It can be tricky because there's also an inner voice that is critical for a reason, and that fear is also purposeful. It comes up to as a checkpoint. Are you doing something that's going to keep you safe? And remember, you're the authority. You get to override all fear responses and let yourself know, I am safe. I make this choice. All is well. But everything that shows up, it's either showing you something that needs to be healed or something that needs to be just turn the volume down. Not now, fear. I'm good. I'm going forward, right? Okay, so here's what I wanted to read that came to mind, and then I'm going to take us into a little bit of a meditation, okay? So this is a quote from a beautiful writing from Max Ehrmann. It's called the Desiderata, and I'm not sure what that means. It was written, I think, in the 40s. But this is what popped in my mind today when I was thinking, what do we need right now as we continue to unfold our potential, as we take a pause and look at our maybe messy lives, and our challenges and all the things that have arisen through this transformational time of what's not working, and it can feel overwhelming. I was in a group experience yesterday with my friend Julia Anderson, who offers this once a month breath empowerment work around the full moon. And I have been coming in to talk about the full moon, and I was in the group yesterday, and I invited everyone, and maybe we can do this here. Assess how you've been this last week or 2 weeks since the last eclipse, since October 25th, and check in and ask yourself, what is one word that describes what you just grew through? And so one woman in the group shared this most powerful word that was like, that totally captured eclipse season for me. And the word was turbulent, turbulent. So how do we deal with turbulence? And by the way, I wish I had said to her, turbulence, I think of it as flying. Turbulence happens when we are ascending to a higher level. We're reaching beyond where we were, and it gets a little bumpy. So know that too, as you're evolving, you're shedding your old ways, and you're growing to higher potential and higher altitude, higher vision, higher view. I call that the sacred view. It can get a little bumpy, a little turbulent. Okay, so this is the quote from Max Ehrmann that came to mind right today, literally just before I sat down when I spontaneously decided to do a video. Okay, so beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it's clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. I hope you're taking this in. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive God to be. Ooh, wow. Gets me every time. So just breathing that in, breathing those words in, and I'm going to take us into a quick little meditation. And in my case, what I call meditation is a place to drop into our inner world, to call in what we need, to be present to what wants our attention, and to start again. So here we go. As I ring the bowl, if you have time in this moment, it's going to be a quick 5 minutes. Close your eyes, turn within. Of course, not if you're driving. You can come back to this later. Pause and come back to this later or anytime you need. And so just allowing yourself to feel centered in your body, feet on the ground, grounding into Mother Earth. And I like to suggest that you have your palms up in a receptive mode to receive what you need in this moment to nourish and nurture your soul, to help you come back home into your own heart, into your own inner world, and to open to receive from the divine what you need. And as you breathe in, then just be compassionate but curious. How has your self-talk been? Whose voices have you been hearing? And are they loving and supportive? Or critical? Judgmental? And ask what you need. And if you are hearing, yes, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of self-judgment, there's a lot of critical thoughts. What's the opposite of that for you? And let your mind and body know that is what you choose. To have more loving, accepting, supportive, validating messages. And right now I'd like to invite you anyway, to allow an image to form of a loving presence. And maybe this is the divine for you. Maybe it's Jesus. Maybe it's Kuan Yin. Maybe Mother Mary, whatever comes to mind. Or maybe it's someone in your life right now that represents a loving, kind, compassionate, accepting presence. And invite them into your mind. Come into my mind and help me hold a space for myself that's more loving, more accepting, more kind, more trusting, whatever you need. And sometimes to reestablish safety in your inner world, it's important to invite in a protector as well. And maybe that's the same for you. But you can invite in a protector, maybe a healthy masculine energy, and a loving voice is healthy feminine energy, which we need both of. But a protective energy that allows you to feel safe and at home in yourself, nurtured, loved, everything you need to grow your potential and to be at home in your heart, witnessing the world, the outer world unfold as it is, with trust and faith. Place your hand over your heart just to further enhance this inner connection. And tell yourself, this is where I live. This is where I live. In the space of compassion and acceptance and love and trust and faith. Okay. That's all I have for you today. I hope that it was nourishing and nurturing and supportive. As always, I do the commercial. I invite you to subscribe if you haven't, like this video, and comment. It's the comments that drive the algorithm. Although, hey there, yay, receive it. That's it. Receive what you need, shed what you don't, right? And this is a good time also to do some journaling because the moon's in Gemini, or to talk to a good friend and externalize, take the inner world externalized on paper or in conversation. to facilitate more of the clearing to claim this inner space for what it is you desire to hold inside of you that holds you. Okay, so I want to hear your comments. What were your takeaways? And again, stay connected to my channel. I really do feel honored by each and every view, each and every comment, and it feels like a beautiful community developing here. I'm honored, and I hope you feel supported. All the best. Take good care of yourself, and remember, stay connected to your compassion and love yourself forward. Thanks for being with me. Bye-bye.